This is Random Randy Savage from Cult 45 Podcast, and you're listening to the Geek World All-Stars Podcast Network.
It has been around forever. That's why I get up. I don't like the concept of cancel culture because I think it's trying to label something that's existed like forever. It's like Pennywise, in fact.
Yeah.
It's more than just evil clown.
I was going to say Pennywise canceled a lot of kids.
Oh.
Welcome to the continued podcast adventures of Superhero Speak.
But I think many of the people that love this character and that love superheroes in general have used these stories as inspiration to say, you know what? I'm going to do something good in the world. I'm going to make a difference like my hero when I was a kid.
That is my fondest memory of it, because when you're doing comic books, you want them to affect people.
Right.
You want people to care. You want to strike emotions. And I knew that Clone Saga was striking a lot of emotions.
Can you imagine Pulp Fiction starring Goofy and Mickey Mouse?
I can totally imagine that.
I'm sure somebody's written that one
quarter
too.
pounder with cheese in France, Mickey? What? Boy, ale with cheese, Mickey. Yeah. I can totally.
See?
I would watch the hell out of that movie.
Yes, I gladly sacrifice up my progeny to you, almighty Marvel beast.
But Neil Adams is somewhere going, it's my time.
How do you measure success? Hey everyone, you are listening to the REM Comedy Hour. I mean, Superhero Speak. And I'm your host, Dave.
And John.
And losing my religion. I mean, JD.
JD's back. Woohoo!
Try to replace me. I know what's going on. I listen to the show.
Yes. And Donald made quite a few jokes on social media about it this week, too.
I follow social media. I know what's going on.
Yeah, you made fun of him, and then look, who replaced you last week? I don't know.
Hey, if it's not for me making that joke, you don't have a replacement for next week. Or for this week. Last week. All the weeks.
Yes,
whatever.
yes. Don't dig yourself into a hole.
Doug, it's already, yeah.
Yeah. Personally, I don't dig holes. I just feast on foot.
Foot feast.
Huh?
Anyway, so
I like chewing on leather. I like inserting my foot.
Whoa. It's not that kind of show, brother.
It's a family show. Well, no, not really.
Now we got to explicit.
Hey, what I do with my Fluttershy body pillow in my own time is...
Is that German?
Oh, God. I'm not going to try to... No, I can't. I can't explain that one. Okay, let's move on from that really, really quickly and just ignore that ever happened.
Thought that I heard you laughing. Thought that I heard you sing.
Oh, my God. All right. So JD, since you weren't here last week and we made a poor attempt to try to replace you, how are you doing? What's new with you?
I'm good, man. We had first day of wrestling practice today officially. For us, the season never really ends, but today was the first official day. We had like 70 kids in our room and then a bunch of, I think like 80 little kids in the club. So, I mean, it went good. We're off to a good start. Tomorrow, the sequel to Harvest Moon hits on Amazon, The Devil's Prayer. I'm very, very excited. For the next 3 weeks, I will have a new book coming out every single Tuesday, which you can get exclusively on Amazon.
Yes. Well, actually, it'll be yesterday for people who are listening to this post Wednesday.
Sorry, we're recording on Monday. I always forget that. So Wednesday. So if you want something good to read, you want a nice little supernatural thriller to whet your appetite, may I recommend? Well, first you should read Harvest Moon, and then its follow-up book, The Devil's Prayer.
I'm nearly finished with Harvest Moon, so
please finish that one. I need your service. Your patronage makes all the difference.
Oh, I just found out. It's the Spectre. That's who that is.
The Spectre doesn't look like that. Although
Jim Corrigan is playing the Spectre. That's the actor. So that's the Spectre.
That actually makes sense too if it's a crisis, because you got to have the Spectre involved. Now people have no idea what
exactly. So John, before we started recording, we were looking at the trailer for the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover that's coming up.
The first teaser trailer that just broke on November 10th.
And you were confused by who was in the one shot next to Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I was upset because I watch all of the CW shows. I'm all caught up, and I didn't recognize the character. But it turns out it's somebody who's just appearing for Crisis. Jim Corrigan playing the Spectre.
That is an interesting point, though. Like, they don't.
Oh, yeah, the Spectre would be involved.
I just mean, and like, but he doesn't look like the Spectre from the comics, where they normally do try to make the characters, for the most part, look like the comics.
To be fair, they've kind of changed up what Jim Corrigan does look like. There's no, like, universal, like, when you think of Jim Corrigan, like, it's not like you have a distinct picture in your head.
Yeah, that's true.
Although, if you're part of, well, also, too, that does make sense, too, because, like, there was a nice little green filter over everything.
Yeah.
Kind of fits, well, the Spectre has the big green cloak.
Right. That's what I was getting at. He's not in a big green cloak. Like, yeah.
But it's present, but like, metaphysically speaking, the presence could cause the big greenness. Or something.
Or something.
So, I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe they're wrong. Like, I found 2 sites that basically say the same thing. I haven't checked IMDb yet, but
don't go to We Got This Covered.
Yeah, don't.
No, that's my primary source.
Oh my God.
I can find out so many things I never knew before on there.
You can, that's true.
Whether they're true or not is up for debate.
But no, I mean, that's pretty cool though, I mean,
speaking of We Got This Covered, I kept seeing, this weekend, a story popped up like 3 or 4 times, but then I realized, I think it started on We Got This Covered, the Matthew McConaughey story, that he was in talks that he's in talks to play Two-Face, and I was just like, or Harvey Dent. I'm like, really? So
I hope that's not real, just because I don't want him to jam all these characters into this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they've never learned before. I mean, we've already got too many confirmed characters as it is.
Yeah.
But if you're going to bring him in, just put him in a bear suit and have him slug somebody. I mean, that's all we need to see.
What?
You've seen, what was the movie he was in where the little girl keeps getting hit by the train?
I don't know what movie you're talking about.
Are you sure this is a real movie?
Yes, I'm sure. I'll figure it out. It's like, it had the bees, and the one with the bees.
Matthew McConaughey, bees, and a little girl getting hit by a train.
Oh, Matthew McConaughey, never mind. I'm thinking of the wrong actor. I'm thinking crazy. Never mind me. I am tired, man.
You're thinking of Nicolas Cage, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh, Wicker Man.
Wicker Man.
Yeah. No. Scratch that. Reverse it. Throw him into Alexis and let him just like talk in a soft tone with a
no. Lincoln.
Oh, forgive me. Yeah, throw him in Alexis anyway.
True Detective was so good.
I haven't seen it.
The first season of True Detective is one of the best single seasons of television, I'll say, ever.
Really?
I loved it so much. Because, again, you're a supernatural horror guy. Like, it's such a cop drama, and then at the end it takes this bizarre Lovecraftian twist I freaking love it.
Well, considering what Harvest Moon is, it seems right up your alley, actually.
It is right up my alley. But, I mean, it was written just for me, I felt. And it was so good. If you have the time, I would highly recommend binging season 1 of True Detective.
Huh.
After you read Harvest Moon.
And after I figure out who Matthew McConaughey is compared to Nicolas Cage, because how I mix them up, I don't know.
That's rough, man. That's mean. Speaking of the books, how's yours going, John?
I got my second round of editing back. Now I have to make sure that I have a full another 60 pages to send. And so far, the editing is still seems like I'm okay.
You're setting it in 60 pages at a time? Like as you write, you're editing it?
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Is it? I don't know. This is my first time.
I've always just done it like given the book and then get it back. But this is intriguing how you're having it done. I may, for the purposes of time, have to move to something like that. I'm intrigued.
I think I like the idea because then you can learn from what the editor says as you're writing.
Yeah, but then it doesn't work yet to throw everything away.
Well, that's true too.
But there's also the other side of it where, and this would be something that I'd worry about myself, that if you have to wait for I don't know, like a month or 2 or 3, depending on how laggy I get over the holidays. For the next 60 pages, you might forget the flow, and then you go back into editing it. She's not just doing, just regular copy editing. She's doing like timeline and consistency and, all that stuff. So
that's good.
Yeah.
That's an intense edit. That's really good.
But, for that, it's, if you have to wait 3 months between reading sections, you might lose the flow of it.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of rather just get the whole thing done and then just can work then you can work backwards.
Yeah. So, yeah, everything's good.
That's good.
Yeah.
How's it going, Dave?
How's it going?
Do you know what you do? Do you know what your job is yet?
Yes, I do. I've actually been fairly busy. They've been giving me a lot of work. I will say this, it's frustrating because I think I mentioned this already on the show. I was a contractor, and then they were so impressed with me, they offered me the job straight up. But
wow, you really snowed them.
You've been waiting for that.
No, the con artist is still an artist.
Yes. But I when I got hired through the contracting company, I had to go through, a background check, right? And now I have to go through the whole process again. It's only been 3 months, and I'm like, why can't you just use the one you just did on me? But
could have killed someone in the last 3 months.
I could have, yes, yeah. I've come very close to killing John a couple times. So
no matter how hard I try, he just refuses to do it.
Do you guys still live near each other? Like, could you kill him if need be?
If need be?
Well, you never know.
Well, what need are you thinking of?
Just a question.
I mean, we're
it's just a question.
We're probably about as far as you are from your work or from your wrestling.
Yeah, I'm about 55 minutes from him, I'd say.
Okay.
So if need be, yes.
The thing is that I know where he lives. He doesn't know where I live.
Oh, you think I don't know where you live, huh? Anyway.
Don't be surprised if I'm alone on the podcast next week.
Have yourself to blame.
So
like
speaking of interesting things I did this week, I did something like the millennials do.
I don't like where this is going, but continue.
You cursed out the boomers. That's what you did.
No. My cable box went, right? in my office, where I usually watch TV, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? I was like, I guess I could just go get a new one. And then I was looking up that Roku, there has a Xfinity streaming app. So if you have cable, you can just watch it through the Roku. So I'm like, I'll just take the cable box back and buy a Roku. And that's what I did. So, and now I'm ready for, well, I guess does it come out Wednesday or Thursday? As soon as Disney Plus comes out, now I can watch it on the Roku.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So there you go.
Disney Plus just made an announcement too, and I forgot. It was something important. I should have written it down. They partnered with Verizon. My Verizon account with my cell phone. They're basically telling me that if I get Disney Plus through them, that I can get it free through my Verizon account.
Yeah.
I don't even have Verizon TV.
That's cool.
Yeah, but I'm not going to do that. But this gets me one step closer to cutting the cord. So
I cut mine 5 years ago. I haven't looked back.
Yeah, because it's funny because I was trying to get caught up on Flash, and I just brought up the CW app, and watched it right on my TV, and I'm like, hey, this is better.
Yeah,
because it's free that way.
Yeah, free is good.
Yes, damn greedy Comcast people.
Can them in. Capitalism.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my purchase, and I've been having fun figuring it out and playing with the apps. And then I did something that I'm kind of ashamed of. My wife and I watched a movie, and I hate the Fast and the Furious movies, but we watched the Hobbs and Shaw movie. Have you guys seen this?
How was it?
It was
It's on demand. I haven't gotten into it yet.
If you get past the unbelievableness that permeates.
Oh yeah, no, it's a complete another like 80s action movie. I heard.
Yeah, if you get away from if you just sit back to enjoy the ride and forget about like how crazy the Fast and Furious movies are, because that's how this movie is. It was quite enjoyable, and it actually kind of, I hate to say this, there's a part of it that feels like Return of the Jedi.
What?
Really? Wait, what?
The nature versus technology aspect they do.
Oh, I've heard of this. Okay.
The little guy against the Empire kind of a thing at the end. So it's like, oh, okay.
Except that none of them have the Force, and a bunch of submachine guns. A bunch of P9s would take out a bunch of people with clubs anytime.
Have you seen those movies? I'm not convinced they don't have the Force.
It's true. That's true.
Oh, yeah. I definitely agree with that assessment. Oh, man. Yeah. I don't care if you're attached to a cable. You can't run down the side of a building like that. Anyway. Oh, did I?
Unless you have the Force.
Exactly. Was that a spoiler? All right. How about we do a little social media madness? What do you guys think?
Well, the less the better. So yeah, a little is fine.
Just tell me when I can poop on last week's episode.
Oh, wait. You want to get to that first?
We can do that, or we can do social media madness first.
Okay. All right. So we had, of course, we talked about Francis Ford Coppola and his backtracking on his statement, basically saying that it was kind of a lost in translation. The despicable comment he made wasn't exactly what he said.
Yes, I misspoke. You misunderstood what I said. There was misunderstanding.
Right.
There was a translation error. Yes.
Right. So I mean, kind of like I put out in the world, do we believe him and whatnot? Of course, Randy Savage from the Cult 45 podcast came back and said, "Sure, he's downplaying it. Disney doesn't make Star Wars and Marvel IPs, and eventually, Disney doesn't just make Star Wars and Marvel IPs, and eventually someone is going to need that Mickey wallet to make a gritty drama about cooking."
That was a thing.
Yes. Oh my god. I'm getting myself back in your microphone there, JD.
Beg pardon?
He can hear you in your eyes.
Yes.
The light, the heat.
Yeah. Very good. I heard it at the same time you said it. What are you doing today? Like, name that tune or something in your head? Is that what you're doing?
I live there.
Mm-hmm.
I live and name that tune.
Shane Beauregard said, no, he hasn't done anything relevant since 1983. And then Podcast came back with, Shane, in all fairness, 1992. So, So I was trying to think, like, has he done any relevant movies since then? You're the movie expert, JD.
I'm going to IMDb.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm not going to answer that.
He spawned Sophia. Does that count?
Maybe.
Don't recognize it. Well,
yeah.
Other than that, I mean,
all right. We also
looks like he's done a lot more producing than he has actual directing.
Right. We also
so basically the answer is the same as every time as everything else today. Damn boomers.
No, it's okay, boomer.
Yeah, okay, boomer.
Anyway,
he made Jack. That was rather entertaining.
Jack.
With Robin Williams is the little kid.
Oh yeah.
That was in 1996.
That was weird.
That was weird.
Yes, and it was entertaining, but was it, cinema?
He had a werewolf having sex with people in Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's cinema, but that was a thing.
Well, according to him, that's cinema.
Sure.
So we had also talked about Batgirl getting extended to a full season, and
yep.
Of course, random Randy Savage retweeted our tweet where we talked about that, and he said, I am good. I even like the guy they got for Hush. Alice is kind of annoying, but she's not in every episode. most, but not every. There's still questions. Dick, Jason, Gordon. We have the option for tons of cross too with Canaries and Team Flash.
Yes, but I see. The thing is, I'm not finding Alice annoying. I'm finding her. I mean, the actress is doing an amazing job of playing somebody who's basically crazy. And not making it cheesy.
I think
it doesn't seem cheesy to me.
I think spoilers, JD, if you are not watching Batwoman. I think that the thing people are finding annoying about her, because I've heard this criticism on other podcasts, is the trope of them being sisters.
Oh, well, I mean, they didn't have to do that, but they did, and it doesn't add a dynamic to it that they're actually playing off of pretty well.
Right, yeah.
Because I mean, it's the CW. It could have gone really bad.
Oh, very easily.
And, yeah. So, but it's not. You know, there are things about Batwoman that are, you know, you have to just blink and turn away because they're doing a CWism. But otherwise, the writing's pretty solid, and the actors that they've got are pretty damn good.
Yes. No, that's true. And then finally, whenever we do social media minutes, I try to shout people out on Twitter that we mentioned them on the show. And George Mitchell retweeted with saying, "Blessed it, I got quoted again." So there you go, George. You were quoted yet again. Okay. So to all those people again, thanks for listening. And if you would like to be part of the conversation, don't forget to follow us on social media at Superhero Speak on Facebook and Instagram. And of course, not Facebook and Instagram, Twitter and Instagram, and Facebook.com/Superhero Speak to follow us on Facebook. And while you're at it, follow the other great podcasts in the Geek World All-Stars Podcast Network, and that is the Pop Prism Power Podcast, Geek World, I was going to say Geek World All-Stars, Cult 45, Us, So Wizard, Fans on Patrol, and the Gorilla Brain Podcast. And you can...
And unfollow.
And don't forget to search for hashtag GW All-Stars for anything that the people in the podcast tweet out.
Can you double unfollow?
Are you unfollowing us?
Are you unfollowing us? You don't even have a Twitter account.
Yes, he does.
I do have a Twitter account. I haven't tweeted anything in like 5-10 years.
Did you just say twitted?
Twitted? Twitter? I don't know what it is.
I have twittered in several layers.
All right. Before this
now I'm the boomer.
Before this descends into total madness, why don't we take a commercial break and we'll be right back.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
And we're back. All right. Before we get to the news, JD, you weren't here last week. We had a conversation about cancel culture and the perception of what cancel culture is and whatnot. John had a lot to say on it.
I agree with a lot of what John had to say, to be honest with you.
Oh, of course you would.
Shots fired.
But you seem like you said you wanted to continue a little bit of the conversation. What did you have to say?
I don't think it's real. I don't think it's a real thing, cancel culture. Like, I think it's a talking point that people like to say on social media, but I don't think it's new. Like, here's a quick little example. 1999, you guys know I'm a wrestling guy. The WWE had a toy of a character named Al Snow. Al Snow had a little mannequin head that he carried into the ring. And when they put the toy out, people of Walmart, like parents, freaked out at Walmart saying he was carrying a severed woman's head. They had a freak out, and they pulled the toy, even though all it would take is 30 seconds of research to figure out that wasn't true. Like, you guys grew up in the 80s. I believe it was the PMRC, was the Tipper Gore-led group that had congressional hearings about the content of popular music.
Mm-hmm. Oh, jeez. Yeah, I remember those.
When the collective forces of Frank Zappa and Dee Snider formed their own Voltron and essentially saved music.
And Dee Snider was amazing.
Was amazing.
When he went in front of Congress.
Okay. He was like absolutely amazing.
He took them apart.
He did. He was phenomenal. Like, he is a legend for that alone. But that created a little tipper sticker thing, which guaranteed that you would sell way more albums by having that parental advisory on it. So Good move on their part. Like, and then let's go, like, the blacklists of the 50s, like, did Edward R. Murrow cancel Joe McCarthy, or did Joe McCarthy get a bunch of people canceled because they were alleged communists? Like, I don't think this is new. Like, people freak out about stupid shit. It's what they do, and they organize and they get people to react. I think the idea of it being cancel culture is just, it's branding, man.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay, hold on.
Yes.
Okay, millennial. Calm down for a second.
Whoa. No labels. Come on.
I'm a millennial. I wear that flag proudly.
Hey, I'm a Gen Xer. I'm allowed to. Anyway, no, I'm saying is,
I'm a brownie.
I agree that it's not new. This is something that has happened at least since the 20th century in our culture.
People been banning books.
All right. Well, yeah, but can we just one level set here? Joe McCarthy, or not Joe McCarthy? That's the current senator. McCarthy, the original 1950s McCarthy.
Right. McCarthyism, yes.
It was Joe McCarthy? Okay, because there's another McCarthy. I forget I mix him up with the current one. But that McCarthy, the 1950s McCarthy, he did get a lot of people in Hollywood blackballed and ruined their lives.
Listen,
that was the original cancel culture, but that's not what's happening today.
What I'm saying is today, okay, and then today it's more public because it's done online and there's more of a, you could see it happening as opposed to Donald brought up a good point about letter writing campaigns. Little women that lived that were in church groups, when they saw something on TV, like McDonald's stopped putting commercials on Married with Children because a woman started a letter writing campaign to complain about Married with Children.
Yes.
I don't think that was the exact example he used, but it's the same.
No, but it's something like that. And like my only point is, I just don't think the idea of cancel culture is real. And I also don't think that who's been canceled successfully? Harvey Weinstein? Like, he's also a criminal. Like, who has been, like, canceled?
I think
there's a lot of talk of canceling people.
I think there's been a few. I use the example of
Chris Hardwick. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Chris Hardwick.
That wasn't what he was going to say, but.
Well, that was the example he used, and I did my research. Like, that guy did not lose a job. He was, they did an investigation that lasted all of 1 month, where his accuser, like, it was crazy. We actually researched what AMC did. They, quote unquote, suspended him for a month while they did an internal investigation. They had a team of lawyers contact Chloe Dykstra, who didn't publicly accuse him of anything. She just wrote a blog post, and then she refused to get grilled by lawyers without her lawyer present, and so it became a he said, she said thing, and they gave him back his job after 30 days.
Look,
so what was canceled?
He got scrubbed from Nerdist, which is
a company he sold a year prior.
But he was still part of that company. His podcast was still called Nerdist.
Right, but he sold it. He didn't have anything to do with the company at that point. They erased his name from the website for a month and a half. And then when he came back, it was so overblown to people. And when he came back, all the female staffers of Talking Dead quit. So we could sit there and say, well, he was wrongfully accused. Maybe he was, but he certainly wasn't vindicated in a court of law. And the people that worked with him decided, I don't like where this is. I'm going to leave.
And that's the point. It's not about actually getting canceled. It's about putting a black mark on a person, and it follows them regardless of if it's true or not. And that's what.
But it didn't follow them.
All the female staffers. I don't know if all quit, but a lot of them quit.
But
the black mark worked on James Gunn because he went to DC.
Yeah, and he went. And he got a job. He got 2 jobs out of it. It was such a big canceling. He wound up getting a promotion.
Look, I get the argument that you're making, but I think you're kind of missing the point. There's still people out there who are trying to get to do this.
I'm trying to be 6'4", but here I am at 5'9".
No,
that's
that's
not a real comparison.
No, it's a totally real comparison because it's not real. Nobody has been canceled. Like, the only one I could think of that might be real is Harvey Weinstein. That guy.
But he's a criminal. That's different,
right,
though.
That's what I'm saying. That is a successful canceling. Like, the rest of it is just people bitching online.
I think
nothing ever
I think the person who made the best point about this was John when he brought up what's his face. He moved to another country and he's still getting praised in this country.
Roman Polanski.
Yeah.
He wasn't canceled. He's a convicted felon who skipped.
Yeah, he wasn't. This was before that, and he's being chased by the law. So.
And then he's somebody that cancel culture should be going after.
But he's still winning awards for crying out loud.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. It's not real. Like we talk about cancel culture. It's a boogeyman. It's a social media boogeyman.
I think it's just putting a name on a movement of people who complain online and want something to go away.
But that's what online is for. Since the time people started, when we started online and message boards were created, and started to bitch about stuff.
It's okay to bitch about stuff, but when the news starts picking it up and starts making more of a fervor behind it, I think it.
Well, okay, wait. Okay, so we've got a couple of groups here that are perpetuating this. Okay, the first one is, for the most part. And this is like, I watch a lot of news, and I've actually read a lot of articles about this cancel thing. As far as it's mostly conservative groups that bitch about it, and of course the other culprits in this is the news media who, cancel culture. It's a big thing. They keep saying it's a big thing, making it a big thing. And then, of course, they go for the clicks because, the cancel culture is going after them. And they're driving it up instead of covering stuff that's like actually real.
So it's like when I was a kid in the 80s, you had to be worried that any daycare you dropped your child off at might actually be in league with Satan. And they might actually be molesting children and worshiping the devil. That was a real thing in the 80s. I remember my parents watching a Geraldo special about it. It's a crime thing. Like, it's nothing new. It's just another boogeyman that we've always had that they can put a label on. And they can blame it on those damn millennials. Those damn millennials and their cancel culture.
That's why you're so upset. Now I get it. I don't think it's a millennial thing. I think it's just... Because it's always been around. It
has always been around. But who has been of the blamed cancel culture? Who has successfully been canceled?
Of course, they're blaming the millennials because they're the ones that grew up online, quote unquote.
Oh, right. They learned to bitch online more so than I've seen baby boomers cry online about the whole okay boomer thing.
I'm not
but that being said, take that away. But I'm saying who has been called? You can, that's the beauty of the First Amendment is you can bitch about whatever you want.
Exactly. All I'm saying is I think it's a shame, and it starts with, I think, internet blogs pick it up, internet websites, because it gets them clicks.
Yeah, and it's mostly then Jordan Peterson, Dave Rubin.
And then the movies, and then and then news websites see that they're getting clicks. Those, and then they start picking up the stories because it drives traffic to the website. It drives eyes to the article. It makes advertising dollars. Like that's.
I'm not arguing that.
Yeah.
There's clickbait. Clickbait is a real thing. But so National Enquirer.
So, and I think and that's that's just a general problem with our culture. And that's a problem with our culture in general right now is that.
It's a problem with the species.
It's a problem with the fact that the information age came up and our species isn't ready for that. No, we're not mature enough to handle it.
Well, we never have been. The Spanish-American War was started because William Randolph Hearst made up some shit about the U.S. as coal and put it in his papers. They drove us. I wrote a paper on this in college. We went to war with a country that didn't actually blow our ship up, but Hearst had so many people worked up that the U.S. government actually went to war with a country they didn't like, but a country for no reason. There was no actual justification for the Spanish-American War.
The Iraq War too, right?
What's that?
If you want to get recent, the Iraq War.
One could make that comparison too, for sure. 9/11 happened and we went to war with Iraq, the wrong country.
Not just that, but it was all going in front of the United Nations, showing little bottles of whatever and talking about rods, none of which actually existed.
Right, and but there's nothing new. Like we've come of age, like how you said, we come of age in the information age, and we're not ready for it. I don't think human beings have ever been ready for it. Like we've always been people that have been swayed by stupidity. Like one of the first occurrences that happened in our nation's history was the Salem witch trials, where a bunch of people were worked over into the fact thinking that these people were witches and were put to death, like for no reason. Like this is just what we do as humans. The only thing that bothers me is that we try to put a label on it to go after millennials. That's all it is. It's a chance for people in power to try to diminish those beneath them. Oh, you guys and your cancel culture. They're trying to cancel everybody when no one's been canceled successfully. Who's been canceled?
I think this podcast is going to be canceled if we keep it up much longer.
Okay. So no, I agree.
Yeah, no, and no one's disagreeing it with you, JD. You just seem like you have a lot to unpack emotionally.
I missed last. Emotionally, yeah. I mean, like for sure when it comes to this subject, because that's what it is. It's people in power who are trying to minimize people beneath them. So they try to minimize anything that happens or lump it into the problem. This is what's wrong with you people. This is what's wrong with your generation. You try to cancel everything. And it's like, but it's, if there wasn't an entire human history of proof to the opposite point, maybe I'd agree.
So if anybody's still listening, and I agree with JD, there is a good video on YouTube by Cody. There's a channel called Some More News, and look for the video called Cancel Culture Isn't a Thing, You Snowflakes.
Who's Cody?
He was actually a member of Cracked a while back before they destroyed all the writing teams on there and fired like half of them. Now he does this. He has a blog. He has a podcast that he does weekly, and then he's got this Some More News, which is basically a continuation of the Some News that he used to do on Cracked on YouTube.
I have to check that out.
I will say that good is a subjective term, and we'll leave it at that. And on that note, boys and girls, I think it's time to get to the news. So let's start off with a story that just won't die. Kevin Feige has finally broken his silence on the Scorsese attacks. So basically he said it was unfortunate, and he believes that everyone has a different definition of art. And I do not disagree with that.
That is about the most politic answer he could give.
That's the answer he's going to give, though, in his position.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. What's he going to do? Say that he's an old... Is he going to go, okay, boomer? I mean, seriously.
It's my job, God damn it.
Yeah, he's a Gen Xer, so he's not allowed to do that. That JD has to do that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because you're right. It's a very politically even answer that he gave. He basically said, oh, it's unfortunate that he feels this way. All the people that work on these movies do work really hard, and you know, his view is that they are artistic in their own way, and everyone has a different view on art. And but it's here you go again. Like everyone is in a fury and going nuts online over this whole story. And as long as it keeps continuing, we keep talking about it because we're addicted, guys. What do you think of Kevin Feige's answer?
It's politic. That's all. JD,
what else is he gonna say?
Yeah.
I mean, like, he gains nothing by, disagreeing with him. I mean, like, by just straight up disagreeing with him. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I think what is art in cinema to begin with? Like, this is pop art, I guess you can say. Mm-hmm. It certainly doesn't present like Dadaism or nihilism or anything. I'm saying, like, it is what it is.
Right. No, that's true. And I mean, there are people who will fight and argue that comic books are a true art form, and I believe they are.
Me too.
Mm-hmm. The popular ones are pop art, I mean, that's where it comes from, and it's just because it's popular doesn't mean it isn't artistic, Some of the best stories have been told in superhero comics.
Well, and also because you don't get it doesn't mean it's not art either.
Right. So, yeah. Sorry, Martin. You're still wrong. All right. Let's continue with a story that kind of shocked me a little bit, but not really. Kevin Feige also confirmed that Ms. Marvel, Moon Knight, and She-Hulk will not only be shows on Disney Plus, they will be in the movies, included in the movies, those characters. So
that's go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that surprised you?
No, not really. I think him saying it now, especially those three, like he singled out those three characters, which kind of tells me they actually have a plan for they're going to be in one or two upcoming movies. What gets me, right,
is no Jessica Jones.
No, because that was a whole separate wing of Marvel, and we know it's defunct now. What gets me is a couple people have said this. And of course, I know I'm planning to get Disney Plus. I know JD, you're planning to get it. I'm sure John, you're planning to get it.
I can knock off two of the streaming services I have right now by getting that and getting them through there.
Right.
So might as well.
But is like I don't know if every Marvel fan's getting it. And this is what's interesting is they're going to be very closely tied, especially for Phase 4. Is that going to hurt them? You know, because they're going to probably do something where Miss Marvel's origin story will be on her miniseries, and then, boom, she's just going to show up in a movie with no explanation of who she is. Is that going to be a good thing or a bad thing? That's my question.
I think it's going to be a capital-driven thing. That's you go to any Marvel movie if you haven't seen, we talked about Infinity War being or Endgame being Iron Man 23.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen all of them beforehand, it might not fit together, but you can still watch it. I mean, it's just going to be the same thing. If you want, and there's completists. A lot of the Marvel fans are completists. So you want the whole story, you got to buy the app. Makes sense.
Yeah.
It does feel like they're falling into a trap that they've fallen into before. And I'm actually kind of, I'm bummed that they're not going to pull in the old, all the properties that they had before. It would have been nice, but it seems like infighting killed that.
True. I've actually heard an argument on another podcast that they were saying they feel they're trying to prepare people and set people up for the idea of not going to the movie theaters anymore. Just everything going to be on their app. And I
wonder where you heard that. That sounds really familiar.
And I still question, does that make sense? Is that it's profitable, doing it right now? You know what I'm saying? They're saying oh yeah, in 3 years, the movie theaters won't be around anymore. And I'm I don't think it's going to be that fast.
No, it's never going to, nothing's ever that fast, but this does set things up,
I mean, especially when you've got Joker being the first R-rated movie to be $1 billion. Yeah, you might have a couple million people subscribing, but you're not making $1 billion just on Joker, or whatever. You're not going to make $3 billion off of Endgame, just putting that on a streaming service.
Are they making $3 billion? I mean, we still don't know, studio math is weird.
Yeah.
So we don't know how much of it they actually take in, how much was spent on marketing, how much was spent on this, and this. So you might be able to make less money in gross, but more money in profit. You know what I'm saying?
But you're dependent on subscribers versus getting people to just go watch one movie as opposed to someone committing to a monthly, thing or a yearly thing.
Yeah, and that's what it's tricky. Because there's been a lot of talk like this too at wrestling. What's interesting is the same thing is happening where they used to have these pay-per-view models where it'd be $40, $50 a month people would pay, and now it's $10 a month on their streaming app. So you have more people, but you're not making quite what you used to. Yeah. And now, what happens when it stops growing? Because every streaming app is going to reach a saturation point where it doesn't grow anymore.
Well,
so what happens then?
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing too, right? Because we keep talking about the streaming. The streaming wars are here now. Apple Plus launched last week. Disney Plus launches this week. You've got NBC, Universal, HBO Max coming out. Apparently Warner Brothers wants to do an app as well, and there's rumors they're going to fold the DC stuff into that.
They should.
So, we're here. We're at the streaming wars. And I think it's going to take a year to figure out who's going to be the top dog,
Oh, at least. Yeah. You bring up a good point, man. Like, at first, a couple weeks ago, I probably would have said, nah, this is probably better. But the more I'm researching into this now, it seems like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, where do you, we don't know what the financials are and what's considered the break-even point. Like, are you necessarily going to have to spend $250 million to make a movie if it's streamed? Like, are there corners that can be cut?
Right. I don't know.
Me neither.
Well, there's also consider that there's the economies of scale too, right? You're going to reach a lot more people through the streaming service than you are through the movies.
Are you?
Yeah,
I think so.
I don't know. Because that's the thing is, of course, the only one that's been around that we could talk about is Netflix, but they don't really release their numbers. So you don't know how many people are actually watching their most downloaded show and their most downloaded movie.
Well, if you go by the fact that everybody's usually talking about, did you binge watch this or that? Although I don't think they've had any really big ones lately.
Google Trends can tell you a lot, but the consumer doesn't get the numbers. Like, those numbers stay in house. Like, we get box office numbers every week,
right?
But there's nothing set that says this is what Netflix earned, and like Netflix knows who's watching what, but we don't, and they're not going to tell us.
I think the other problem is this: if you're Disney Plus, Netflix, whatever, you have X number of subscribers. That's the money you make every month. So it doesn't matter if you make a really good movie one week and yes, I understand they have to figure out what are people watching and give content that people want to keep them on there. But at the same time, there isn't as much of an incentive to now make a better movie and to push the envelope and to do something bigger and better.
You mean like the Disney remakes?
I disagree with that in concept because you have to keep people there. Like, because we're in the streaming platform war right now, like new content is more valuable than ever.
Well,
right?
Yes. Well, no, because look at the Disney remakes.
But that's new content. But it's new content.
But I'm talking about good content.
Good is in the eye of the beholder. Is like, what we consider good, other people might not consider good. Like,
nobody considers the new ones good.
Aladdin made a lot of money. Like it doesn't.
Go to Transformers. I see that's the thing. That's the economies of scale. You can make a bad movie and enough people will like it because there's enough people in the world.
But you can't go into the well, though. That's the thing. You can't. And the Transformers is the perfect example of that. Bumblebee, I watched it a couple weeks ago. It wasn't horrible.
No, it was good.
It was entertaining, but it bombed. And it had nothing to do with the fact of that movie. It had to do with the fact that people were sick of Transformers movie. This last Terminator movie is supposed to be pretty good, but the market has 3 times in the last 15 years told people that they don't want another Transformers movie. But they keep trying to shove it down.
Yeah.
That's the Transformers.
Yeah. Same deal.
Same Terminator movie. Same tea. But same idea, though. The market crapped on it. Like, Dark Fate, it can be a pretty good movie. People don't want it. So you have to provide good content or they're going to stop coming.
Yeah.
And that's where we've with feature films is we've been talking about it for years. When are people going to get sick of franchises? Guess what? They're getting sick of franchises.
They're getting sick of certain franchises.
So, but it's always certain. Like it will be certain. That's the thing. Is like if you're not providing the market with what they want, you have to start providing them with what they want,
right?
Or something that they will grab to. And these streaming services, it seems like the Apple ones are not being very well reviewed.
No, it's not. And from my understanding, that the content on it is very limited to begin with too. They don't have a lot.
That's a problem. Like if you're not it seemed like they fashioned themselves as the old Hollywood style of things where this was the actor driven medium. And it seems like, and I don't know what their streaming numbers are like right now, but critically it's been a fart. So what are they going to do? because if they don't get, like, Apple's got this track record of nailing it every time. If people don't get the service, what's going to happen?
That's a good question. It's a very good question.
Like, I think more than ever, you have to provide good content, and Netflix has, which is why they've stayed ahead of the game.
No, and I agree with that. I've watched a few good original things on there. I mentioned it a couple times. The Paul Rudd, Living with Myself. It's really well done. It's really good. And another thing you can do is you can have people like the Emmy Award-winning writer of the Pickle Rick episode,
oh geez,
Jessica Gao, be your head writer on your She-Hulk television series for Disney Plus. Was that a good segue?
That sounds perfect in theory. It was a good segue.
Okay, good.
Bravo.
I don't know anything else she's written, but all I know is she wrote the Pickle Rick episode, so that's all I need to know. It only makes me go, is She-Hulk going to have a comedic vibe to it?
Well, wait. You know, Pickle Rick is green. She-Hulk is green. Obviously, she's right.
I think it has to have a comedic vibe to it because that's kind of the character, right? Or the best She-Hulk stories.
I would say definitely the later She-Hulk stuff, the early 2000s, the whole when.
I'd say even the Byrne stuff of the late 80s had that vibe to it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean there was a definite vibe though, especially during, I want to say like the Civil War era when she was trying to be a lawyer and not really be a hero anymore.
The Dan Slott stuff.
Yes. So yeah.
Sounds right. I don't watch Rick and Morty. I know.
Dave, start the search for another co-host.
You guys got Don laying in the wings.
Don, do you watch Rick and Morty? Let us know. Did you watch the premiere of the new season last night? Or...
That is the only goalpost that we look for these days. It's the only requirement.
Yes. Anyway, I can't believe you don't watch it. Jeez.
I don't watch anything anymore.
Yeah, but that's something that you'd like. I mean, really like.
And it's funny, too. I will say this. It's another friend of the show, Joey DiCarlo, host of So Wizard, was complaining about the show. And I'm like, he's like, I watched one episode and I couldn't get into it. And I'm like, yeah, but you probably watched like the third episode in season 2 where you really don't know what's going on and you don't understand the show. I'm like, you've got to watch it from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the 4th or the 6th episode where things take a really weird turn and then get really dark really fast. You're like, oh, now I get what the show's all about. So, I'm not going to ruin it for people who haven't seen it, like JD.
Thanks.
But I think you should.
I think some people go into those kind of shows that are super popular or have a cult following and they immediately like, I don't like this.
See, I'm usually that kind of person, but this one, like, I watched it on a lark one day because I was really, really bored. And people have been telling me, just like they've been telling me to see, what's the nerd comedy that everybody keeps telling me to see? Oh my God, my brain's not working.
Are you talking about Big Bang Theory?
Big Bang Theory. Everybody's telling me to watch that. I've never watched it.
I don't think you like it.
But I got into 2 or 3 episodes of Rick and Morty. And it's like, oh my God, this is awesome. You know?
See,
so
Big Bang Theory is another one where I think if you watch it the early seasons from the beginning, you'll tend to like it more than if you just try to watch a couple episodes and because it's one of those things.
I don't know. For me, it's too on the nose.
It's one of those. It becomes one of those things when the show's on for 10 years. There's a lot of shortcut in the humor because the character acts a certain way. So when they say something, it's funny because it's, within character.
It's based on the character and not an actual joke. Yeah,
right.
I get it. It's one of the things I'm trying to keep in mind when I write my book.
But there are so many episodes where I'm like, oh my God, I've had this conversation with John and with JD or, it just makes there's this episode, the beginning of the episode, they're in the comic book shop and they have the sword for Game of Thrones. And they're asking the comic book guy, the comic book shop owner, like how much? And he's like, oh, I don't know. What kind of price can you put on something that's a copy of something that was on paid cable?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so they start haggling back and forth for the price of the sword. And then finally, Leonard and Stewart's the comic book shop owner, and Leonard's one of the main characters on the show. Finally, Leonard's like, all right, fine, 200, but throw in the Iron Man helmet. And Stewart goes, that's signed by Robert Downey Jr. And Leonard goes, so? And Stewart goes, if you're going to question the value of the signature from a prop, the signature of an actor from a prop of a movie, then all of our lives have no meaning. And I think that was the greatest joke. And I'm like, yes, I've been there. Sorry.
Yep, really don't like it.
Went off on a tangent. All right. Okay, so finally we have some crazy DC casting news that came out this week. I don't think they've been confirmed, but it's been confirmed they're in negotiations, both of these actors. Colin Farrell and Andy Serkis are in negotiations to be in the Batman. Farrell to play the Riddler, and Serkis to play Alfred. So
too many characters. It's gonna be a celebrity fest. It sounds like.
Well, you need an Alfred.
But Serkis?
Oh yeah, you need an Alfred. But
Andy Serkis to play Alfred? I don't know if I don't.
Who will he be playing? I mean, is it going to be motion capture Alfred?
Is Alfred going to be motion captured?
It seems.
I don't know. It's weird.
It seems like an odd choice, but then you start going. Are they going for the more modern? He was in the wars or something. MI6. Okay, that's the modern take. Right. So he's a more of a badass than just the father figure. It's like
I don't know. Like, is Colin Farrell supposed to be Riddler or Penguin? I thought it was Penguin.
Oh, that's right. Penguin. I'm sorry. Right. We have our Riddler. We announced him a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Paul Dano.
Yes, Paul Dano. Yes, Penguin, which it makes it even an odder choice.
Yeah. I got nothing.
I mean, ever since he played Deadshot,
yeah,
I can't see him being any other villain. And then, of course, announced today, this was confirmed that Jamie Lawson, and I don't know, I haven't seen anything that she's been in, is confirmed to be in a mystery role in the Batman.
Holly Robinson would be my guess.
Oh, okay. There's a lot of people already speculating that she's going to be Batgirl.
Oh. If Jeffrey Wright's playing.
Yes, if Jeffrey Wright is Jim Gordon, that she would be the Barbara Gordon. And she could just be Barbara Gordon too without ever being Batgirl in the movie.
Yeah.
But
in fact, please don't be Batgirl in the movie.
I'm going to throw out there, if they're squeezing in Batgirl, Penguin, Riddler, of course Alfred and Batman, and then
Venom in too.
And then rumored Two-Face. Are we getting Batman and Robin again?
Oh, we're beyond Batman and Robin at this point. We've stepped into Justice League.
Can we get Schwarzenegger to return as Mr. Freeze?
Yeah, I think we made that joke last
Nice
last
to
week.
meet you.
I mean,
oh yeah, you yeah.
We know you love your ice jokes. That's okay.
I think that was our co-host last week who was making the jokes. Mads
Mikkelsen would be a pretty good Mr. Freeze.
No, there's already too many characters in this. I don't know what they're.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing with you. I was just fantasy casting.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really getting nervous. Like I don't know, man. I just don't know.
That's DC. What else are we expecting?
None of them are confirmed yet. So before I burn this movie in effigy, I want to see a confirmation telling me that Crockett from Miami Vice has become the Penguin.
He's too busy on the Watchmen TV series.
Other Crockett.
Crockett. I'm sorry. Yeah, no.
I don't think Don Johnson is busy. I'm pretty sure he dies in the first episode. Spoilers.
Oh, okay. I haven't watched it yet. Thanks, JD.
No problem. That's what I'm here for. John, have you watched Watchmen yet?
No, I haven't.
I heard we're missing out. Everyone's saying it's pretty good.
Like you, I have to pick and choose. I mean, like I watch more TV than you, and I still feel like I'm not writing enough, and I just that's on my list, but
see,
when I have time,
I will say that
during Christmas
with stuff like that, like sometimes I could just put TV on in the background while I'm doing other things, but with that I would get sucked in and want to sit down and watch it.
Yeah, but Yeah, that's the thing, though. I mean, yeah, for stuff like that, like the CW shows, I like to pay attention. And anime, because I watch it all dubbed. I mean, subbed. You have to pay attention or else you miss things. But
unless you speak Japanese.
Yeah, which, I am picking up quite a bit. I'm noticing that I'm recognizing phrases and words without having to see the sub, the CC. So,
are you turning Japanese?
You watch it for 10 years. No.
I really think so.
You watch them for 10 years in a foreign language, you start to pick up stuff,
I agree. I picked up some Japanese from Japanese wrestling.
Oh, boy, you guys need help.
No argument.
Nope.
Oh, and before we get off DC and go into our final thing for the week, JD, have you seen Joker yet?
No.
No, you suck.
I went and saw Dr. Sleep on Sunday.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? You went to see that instead of Joker?
What? I mean, like, what? Okay, what's the incentive to see Joker at this point?
Don't blame him, JD. I mean, you're good. You're good. I mean, seriously, Joker. You could watch that in your home when it gets on demand for free or something. Or
that's kind of what I feel. Like nobody, like everyone. Okay, people whose opinion I trust tell me, meh. People who I think are stupid are making it their avatar on Twitter. That's really telling me all I need to know about this movie.
This is true. This is wow. That's about right.
I thought it looked stupid the moment I saw the makeup. So
you did, Dave. From the moment that thing came out, you pooped on it, and I was the one who was like, "Oh, let's give it a chance. Let's give it a chance." And the closer we got to it, the more I was like, "Damn, Dave is right," and I just can't come out and just say it like that.
See, people,
you were right.
See, I am right once in a while.
No, but I mean, you hit it right on the head, and I waved the flag because I thought I saw something in this, but I don't know, man. Like the more I hear, and the more I see, the less I want to see.
I mean, I saw it. And it's worth a watch, but if you're going to the movie theaters, I mean, for people like us, we'd be more interested in something like Dr. Sleep than we would seeing Joker. Joker's like an avant-garde film. It's not
falling down with a clown.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I should copyright that. Or trademark that.
Falling down with the clown.
It's my new
out here next year.
It's more what Coppola would consider cinema.
You're probably right. I mean, because Scorsese produced it, so clearly that's art. But I don't know. Like the idea of I'd rather see a Stephen King adaptation than someone who doesn't get the Joker.
Right.
And then the more Todd Phillips talks about it, he's like, "Yeah, we didn't really have a script. I just let the camera roll and let Joaquin Phoenix just do stuff." So it tells me he just let an overindulgent actor overindulge himself.
Which worked out because of the character he was playing.
I don't know. I think some of those dancing scenes went on too long. I think the only one you needed was the one down the steps. I think the other ones could have been cut out, personally.
Yeah.
You know who probably wouldn't have liked that movie at all? Stan Lee.
Wow, your segues are just like on point.
Something takes away from it when you point out. So this week, boys and girls, we are ending with an interview. Another great one that we got from New York Comic Con. It was Kate Rosenfield, Ryan Silbert, and Luke Lieberman. These three people were involved with finishing up a book, A Trick of Light, which is a novel that Stan Lee was working on before he passed away. And Kate was the actual one who, was the author and finished it up. And, we got a chance to sit down and talk with them. Me and John. John, you have anything to say?
I was there. I was present.
It was just a great conversation, especially to talk to people who knew him, especially at the end of his life, and got to work with him. And I'm gonna admit now I messed something up in the interview. Don't hate me for it. I was in an emotional state while we were talking to these people, so give me some leeway, folks. But on that note, take it away, Dave and John from New York Comic Con with A Trick of Light.
All right, everyone. Now we are here with Kat Rosenfeld.
Field.
Rosenfield, Ryan Sobert, and Luke Lieberman. How are you guys doing?
How you doing?
And
good.
You guys are here talking about a new book that came out. Well, it was out as an audiobook first, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and it was one of the last things that Stan Lee was working on before he passed away.
Yeah.
And I guess, Kat, you finished writing the book?
Yeah, this was one of the last collaborations completed in his lifetime. We were very lucky to finish the manuscript as a collaborative effort while Stan was still with us. So, the project, the story was complete. Unfortunately, he passed away before the actual release, but it was ready to go.
So the question that John had, you want to ask?
Oh, yeah. So this was designed as an audiobook first, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What was the thing behind that? Because this is the first work of literature that I know of that was designed with audio for. I mean,
I think
for a book
at that point in Stan's career, I think just the idea of doing something he hadn't done before was really appealing. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just anything that kind of blew his hair back, and so when when this became an opportunity, he kind of grabbed onto it and was like, yes, that's the way to do it, and I think in part he liked the idea that the listener would be kind of part of the collaborative process, that there was no visual, so they could be the Ditko or the Kirby, and that they could sort of visualize and become a collaborator in the creative storytelling.
Yeah, this was a new way to connect with fans, which is something that Stan was always huge on, finding new ways to do that. And in the case of this story, it's a very contemporary, setting. It's very centered in the digital age and the anxieties that we all have related to the internet. So to do it in audio was a way of, combining this really modern setting, really modern story with a form of storytelling that goes back to something really elemental, the oldest form of storytelling.
Yeah, when you're looking at Stan's work, really, I mean, he was a student of pop culture, and he grew up in an age where a lot of these things coexisted: audio, print, comic books, movies,
the radio
TV.
serials, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to be able to have taken this project and to start A Trick of Light as an Audible original and then bring it to print. It's almost taking what Kat's saying and taking from elemental to that next stage of pop culture mediums, which is print, and then, moving forward. It's like step by step by step. It's a really interesting process. Thank you for asking that question, because it's like, not usually identified.
Yeah.
I've noticed a lot of the works that Stan was working on, towards the end of his career, he was very involved with looking at the digital world and where things were headed, and you can see that really interested in him. I'm sure our audience would like to hear. Do you guys have an elevator pitch for the book? A basic synopsis so people know.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's. I'll give you I'll answer it and then we'll talk about the book. But okay. I think what his curiosity around the digital age is something that is. I'm happy you identified that, because his curiosities in the 60s very much mirror what we're dealing with in The Trick of Light.
Yes.
And and this is deliberate. I mean, if you read Trick of Light as a published manuscript, or you listen to his Audible introduction, he talks about it. He talks about the Fantastic Four. He talks about the X-Men. He talks about what it was like to be, staring down the abyss of the unknown and not knowing what was going to happen with the space race. So then him and Kirby went up to space and sent a family up through the cosmic rays. And similarly, in this book, Cameron and Nia are dealing with the unknowns of the digital age, loneliness, right? Separation from yourself, identity.
So, yeah, originally in the year 2000, when I met Stan and it was a new technology, he looked at the internet with a lot of optimism as something that could connect people with ideas. And, you cut to a decade and a half later when we start ideating around this project, and he'd become much more aware at how it was sort of dividing and isolating us instead of connecting us.
Yes.
And so in Trick of Light, you have characters that are, both connected and isolated, right? They are, Nia has a million friends online and no real friends.
Right.
Cameron gains the ability to be cyberkinetic, so he can interface with, he's Professor X with computers. He can interface with all kinds of digital technology, but all he's really looking for is a human connection, a connection to another human being, which is kind of the very basic sort of societal building block that Stan was trying to express in this book as kind of an elemental thing that we all need to get back to.
And to add on to what Luke was saying, one of the aspects of Cameron's, story and his development as a character is when we first meet him, he's trying to become a famous YouTuber. He wants to be a YouTube star. And when he has this accident that ends up granting him these cyberkinetic abilities, it happens on a live stream. So the entire world sees him get struck by lightning, and he becomes famous. He becomes what he wanted to be, and then he discovers that he's more isolated and more misunderstood than he ever was before.
It's funny. I don't think a lot of people understand that in all of his writing, there was a lot of layers like that. And, how does it feel? I don't know how to ask this question. How does it feel seeing the book come out now? What kind of emotions are you guys going through with the release of this book at this point?
It's exciting. It's bittersweet. We all wanted so badly for him to be with us when the release happened. He was so excited about it. And, because it was completed during his lifetime and we were able to see how thrilled he was to bring this to fans. Now that the book and the audio book are out in the world, it really feels like he's still present.
It would have been sweet to hand him a copy of the published book. That would have been a sweet moment. But we got to share a lot of moments with him in the process, and that's what you're gonna remember.
What was, as the writer? As the writer, what was it like trying to finish a work by another author?
This was a collaborative process.
Yeah.
This was absolutely, writing as a team sport. And obviously Stan was sort of our captain, our Gandalf, our Generalissimo. But, it was never a question of finishing it for him. This was something we all did together.
Okay.
The innovation of Stan's legacy in pop culture goes beyond just the characters he created. It's the ways he created the characters too. So, that bullpen aspect was one of the exciting parts for him. It was certainly exciting for us. So that's the aspect of what, allowed a creation like this to come to life.
Because, when this started with me and Stan in a room kind of getting an idea and getting some traction. And I remember leaving the room being like, okay, I need to keep pushing this ball forward because Stan's got something he wants to do. And, here's an opportunity. Here's a chance to create something with Stan. And then we started assembling a bullpen around him to kind of help him get this story out.
What was all right? So if it's big collaborative effort, what were some of the things that you argued about? Like what were some of the challenges that you came up with?
Stan.
Well, not with Stan. No, that's not
Kobayashi Maru of all Kobayashi Marus.
But was there anything that spiked a lot of conversation?
Well, if you read the afterword, actually, in this in the printed book, you'll see that about halfway through the process, Stan kind of turned the story on its head, and this was 2 years into development. And all of a sudden, he kind of connected two elements and just radically changed the trajectory of the story. And we were all kind of terrified at that point because, actually, frankly, we were already in business with Audible. We had already kind of sold them on a pitch, and now we had to go back and explain that Stan wanted to make some fundamental changes, which they were, Stan. So everybody just kind of went along and said, and he was right. It made it a much better story.
It feels good when you hear about other people who've collaborated with him that they went through very similar experiences. It's sort of like a bonding of creatives.
Yeah. Being a lifetime fan of the man, he had always said he used the name Stan Lee when he wrote comics because he wanted to save Stanley Lieberman for when he wrote the great Lieberman. I'm sorry, Lieber.
I'm a Lieberman.
Oh, you're a Lieberman. He's a Lieber. You're right. I'm sorry. He wanted to save Stanley Lieber for when he wrote the Great American Novel. Mm-hmm. Is this his Great American Novel? Do you think?
Well, that's a question I think only he could answer. I think it's a great American novel, and he was, a central part of the process. Mm-hmm. And I think that there was actually talking about kind of the identity issues there, because one of the things the characters are dealing with in this novel, and one of the things his characters have kind of classically dealt with is, Peter Parker and Spider-Man or Bruce Banner and the Hulk. There's identity conflicts that are at the center of who am I really? And actually, if you think about it, what Marvel did in the cinematic universe with Iron Man, where he says, I am Iron Man, and Tony Stark and Iron Man become one, that's almost like the culmination of the questions that Stan was dealing with in terms of identity. But our characters are all dealing with these identity issues in the sense that we all have these digital personas that we're putting out to the world. We have who we really are and who we present to the world through our avatars, and our avatars are interacting with other people's avatars in this kind of virtual space. And that's the sort of central identity issues that Cameron and Nia and Wako are dealing with in this book. And there is it wasn't lost on Stan that there was Stanley Lieber and then there was Stan Lee. And he was always authentic. He was always him.
Right.
But as someone who went to Comic-Cons with him going back to 2002, there would be he would go out in front of 1,000 people and be Stan Lee. And then there would be the moments where he would step back and I'd be the kid on stage, just kind of hanging out there. And he would kind of lean back and have an unguarded moment with you. And you could see Stanley Lieber sort of reflecting on Stan Lee.
Speaking as a fan, same way, as somebody who loved comic books as a medium and valued it as being the best way introduction to reading, and that's something that Stan was a very big proponent of, is having comic books be something that people can engage with and become better readers with. And I've always felt that way growing up because we all came from the same generation, right? But I don't know if this is the Great American Novel, but what I will say is that it's as a fan, it's so nice to see his name and Kat's name in this book up, with Houghton Mifflin Harcourt in a publishing house where Margaret Atwood is. And so his book stands in the booth right now next to Atwood, next to Tolkien. And that's cool. It makes us all as fans feel vindicated in a way to be yes, this is, literature. It was always literature. Fantastic Four is his Great American Novel, as far as I'm concerned. 1 through 100, definitely.
All right. Do you have anything you want to say before we wrap it up, Kat?
That's one of those on the spot questions. No, I can't think of anything. Thank you so much for for your interest in and your support of the project. We're really excited to be bringing it to fans.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I think fans are going to love it.
Thank you guys for your time. I'm still a little verklempt.
Okay, whatever. Michigana.
There you go. Michigana. So I think that about does it for the week. JD, you have anything you'd like to add to the listeners? Any further plugs or recommendations?
If you like the Shining movie, get the book. Dr. Sleep's a weird little experience, but I think you should see it.
Okay.
Okay, cool. How about you, John?
I got nothing. My brain is literally on work and book right now. I got nothing.
So wait, JD, if you like the Shining movie, read the book. What if you like the Shining book and not the movie?
Then Shine the book? Shine the movie? I don't know.
So there's a lot of big differences between Stephen King and Coppola or Kubrick's. This book, have you ever read the book, Dr.
No.
Did you read? Okay, so the book is very much the sequel to the book. So I wondered how they were going to make it into a film when you see the marketing campaign, it's so veers hard into the movie. Mm-hmm. And they rewrite a lot of the book to make it fit, or they rewrite a lot of it to make it fit. It doesn't all work for me, but I think it's pretty good. I enjoyed it. I mean, I think the book's better, but I thought it was pretty good. I really just enjoy a good Ewan McGregor performance.
Okay.
But it's still like the kid who survived from the first storyline taking another person who shines to a safe place, aka the house.
No. It's actually the okay. So the little girl has the shine too, but she's actually much better at it and much more comfortable at it than Danny ever was.
Uh-huh.
And what the villains, it's a band of people called the True Knot, who are like them. They have shine, but what they do is it's this band of I don't want to use the term gypsy because that's a racist term. I don't caravan people, we'll just say. that they kidnap little kids with shine and they eat their souls. So
that's pleasant.
Yeah, it's a horror movie, man. So, and they're after this girl, and so Danny's trying to save her, and then he gets a plan that the only way to stop them is by unleashing his ghosts.
Okay, I only have one question.
Yes.
So Tony is still part of this?
No.
Okay. Do they explain Tony?
Tony in the book is the future Danny.
Okay, right, because they never explain him in the movie, but they do explain. Yeah, you're right.
They never explain him. Yeah, but in the book, Tony is Danny when he's older,
right?
And like astral projecting himself back in time. He like in a like dreary state, he'll mention Tony, and that's about it. That's all you get of Tony.
Okay.
But Carl Lumbly, who was Martian Manhunter in the Justice League cartoon show, recreates the Scatman Crothers character to a T, and it's quite impressive.
Wait a minute, he was killed in the movie.
He was. He's a ghost.
Oh, see, you're ruining it. All right.
A Force ghost.
Not really. It happens like 5 minutes into the movie. Hardly ruining.
All right. So I will recommend, if you're enjoying this talk about The Shining and
half-class review of The Shining or
Dr. Sleep, right? Check out the Cult 45 podcast this week because they did it on The Shining, the movie, and they talk about the differences between the book and the movie. So that was kind of interesting. I listened to that this morning.
But don't watch the made-for-TV Shining from the 90s. It's really bad.
Yeah, but it's closer to the book.
It's much closer to the book, but it doesn't. So there's stuff. Okay, Stephen King some of his stuff is like intranslatable.
Yes.
Like it. Like they go back. Like it. He talks to the giant turtle to find out how to kill Pennywise.
Yes.
Like you can't do that in a movie. Like it just.
Well, you could, but.
That's what I'm saying. It just it doesn't work. Child orgy also doesn't work.
No, child orgy just like doesn't work with anything.
No, but yet he was such a powerful writer. No editor had the balls to say, Stephen, maybe we lose this. Maybe we lose this.
So
yeah.
So
just one.
So The Shining was early in his career, and Kubrick didn't think he was a strong writer, but liked the story idea. That's why he rewrote a lot of it when he did the movie.
Rewrite is one thing. I think it's a refocus. Like The Shining book, the house wants Danny, and it's using his father as a conduit to get him.
Right.
The Shining movie, the house wants Jack, and it's pulling him in slowly.
Right.
And Danny just is this kid who happens to have superpowers.
Right. Which is also kind of makes it weird because it's called The Shining, and it feels like he's just a side character that's
in a story that's about him.
Right.
And that's really what Stephen King's ultimate with it is. And like, also he didn't like, cause I think it's cause Stephen King is Jack Torrance, and so like the way Kubrick treated the Jack Torrance character where he's just straight up evil.
Right.
Like he's rotten before and the house just exacerbates it. I think that Stephen King takes that a little personally.
Yes.
Cause like,
because you know why he wrote the book.
Yeah, for sure. He's dealing with. Yeah, he hurt Joe Hill actually.
Right. He was afraid because he was having a drug and alcohol problem, and he was afraid he was being a shitty father. So that's why he is. Yeah, he's definitely Jack, and it's like
I believe he actually hit his son Joe, who grew up to be Joe Hill, prolific writer of his own. So that was Stephen King. I get that. That's Stephen King really working through his worst aspects of himself long before he actually solved it.
Right. So then when Kubrick poo-poos on it and makes the changes he does, I understand why he doesn't like the movie. It makes sense.
I get it. And like, but also people go, well, Kubrick's version is the better version. And I can't argue with it because it's a different interpretation and Kubrick made such a brilliant movie. But the book exists onto itself. And like I said, I don't think Stephen King, there's not a lot of great Stephen King adaptations out there. Like there really aren't. A lot of his movies kind of suck, but the books are great.
Yeah.
He's a tricky one to do. Like I really liked both the new It's, but not a lot of people do.
Well, that's also part of the problem too, right? Like a lot of his stuff has to be broken into multiple movies for one book to fit everything in to make it.
Because it's so long. Right. A lot of this, like it itself's like 1,000 pages. Like. It's crazy. Like when you actually try to bring ABC had the right idea of making it a miniseries, and I think they did a good job breaking it down. And I think they stay as true to. I think it stays as true to the original book as is possible. While making it while making it a film. But there's stuff that's hard. Like there's a big part of Stephen King that's influenced by like Carlos Castaneda.
Yeah.
You know? And like that stuff's really hard to translate to a theater going audience.
Right.
Like, when you learn that all his stuff is connected, like it's impossible. Like it's impossible to follow.
Right.
That way.
No, that's true. And it's funny because like it is about coming of age and then childhood demons and dealing with them when you're an adult. And like that's the whole point of how they defeat Pennywise at the end is like they're not letting it bother them anymore. Is really
right. It's very Peter Pan.
Right. But people poo-pooed on the movie because of that ending, and it's like, but that was the whole point. Like that's the point of the story.
They make an in joke in the movie where like, cause the writer character, I can't remember, Ben is a writer character, and they keep saying, he doesn't know how to end. He can't end a book. And I'm like, cause I read the book, I'm like, oh geez, they're just cutting right to the core of Stephen King here. And they did, like I said, I think they did as good a job as possible. Like It One's always going to have a better ending because it's so much more relatable. The kids beat the monster.
Right.
And that's it. This one, you're right. It's like, it's literally about confronting your childhood fears and realizing they're not as bad as you thought they were to defeat them. And that's so metaphysical. Like that's such a hard thing to portray.
Exactly. Yep.
You know, and it's like, oh, he's a giant spider. Well, yeah, he is, but not really. Like they see him as a spider because that's the only way they can see him. And it's how do you explain that? I can't even explain it to you right now. You know, like his stuff it's trippy sometimes, man.
All right. So long story short, go see The Sleep, Dr. Sleep, and listen to the Cult 45 podcast.
I think I'm going to, actually. I've never listened to their show before, but now that you said that, I think I'm going to check that out this week. So.
Cool.
Download it right away.
All right. Well, on that note, boys and girls, as always, thanks for listening, and don't let your cape get caught in the door. Have a good week.